Hello everyone, and welcome back to Conspiraseed. Today we're going to be talking about the serial killer you've never heard of, Robert Pikton. If you do like the video, remember to like. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for choosing to spend some time with me today, and let's get into it.
Nothing like being subscribed to Conspiraseed on YouTube. Nothing like it.
Robert Pikton was born October 24th, 1949, to a family of pig farmers in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, 17 miles or 27 kilometers east of Vancouver. He had an older sister named Linda, who was actually sent off to live with relatives in Vancouver, as their parents thought that the pig farm was no place to raise a girl. Robert and his younger brother David began working at the farm from an early age. The mother was very demanding and prioritized the pigs over the brother's personal health and hygiene, forcing them to work long hours taking care of the animals. While they did attend school, they would often go in unwashed, dirty clothes that smelled of manure. And as we all know, kids are brutal, and they got the nickname Stinky Piggy from their classmates. Robert, interestingly enough, was strongly attached to his mother. He also had little interaction with his father, who was also abusive. Robert struggled in school, being put into a special class after failing the 2nd grade. To be fair, with a nickname like Stinky Piggy, I think I'd do pretty bad in school too. At the age of 12, he began raising a calf, and he and the animal became inseparable. The calf was his beloved pet, and Robert was the calf's loving owner. 2 weeks after he started raising this calf, he came home from school one day and he couldn't find his beloved pet anywhere. When he asked his mom about it, she suggested that he check the barn, only to find that his calf had been slaughtered. Robert was heartbroken. He fully dropped out of school in 1963 and began working as a meat cutter. He worked as a meat cutter for nearly 7 years before leaving to work full-time at the family farm. In 1978 and 1979, his parents passed away, leaving Robert, his brother, and his sister the family farm. They sold parts of their land for 5.16 million Canadian dollars or 3.77 million US dollars. An ex-employee of the farm called it a creepy-looking place patrolled by a 600-pound boar, and actually described Robert as a pretty quiet guy who was hard to strike up a conversation with. He also noted that Robert's occasional bizarre behavior would draw attention, especially with no evidence of substance abuse. On March 23, 1997, Robert was charged with the attempted murder of a prostitute named Wendy, whom he'd stabbed several times during an altercation at the farm. Wendy told the police that Robert had handcuffed her. However, she escaped after suffering several lacerations. She told the police that she had disarmed him and stabbed him with his own weapon. Robert went to the hospital while Wendy made her way to the nearest emergency room. Robert was released on a $2,000 bond, and the attempted murder charge against him was halted on January 27, 1998, because Wendy had drug addiction issues, and prosecutors believed that she was too unstable for her testimony to help secure a conviction. Robert and his brother David, both of whom lived on the farm, were sued by city officials for violating zoning ordinances. Basically, they let their land that was zoned for a farm fall into disarray, and it was just crappy land at that point. Sadly, both of these instances would be the least of Robert's problems with the law. On February 6, 2002, police executed a search warrant for illegal firearms at the Pikton property. Both Robert and his brother David were arrested, and police obtained a second warrant using what they had seen on the property to search the farm as part of the BC Missing Women investigation. Personal items belonging to missing women were found at the farm, which was sealed off by members of the Vancouver police. The next day, Robert was charged with possession of a weapon. Both of the Piktons were released, however, but Robert was kept under police surveillance. On February 22, 2002, just 16 days after his previous arrest, Robert was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was charged with the deaths of Serena Abotswe and Mona Wilson. On April 2nd, 3 more charges were added for the murders of Jacqueline McDonald, Diane Rock, and Heather Bottomley. On April 9th, he was charged with a 6th murder, that of Andrea Josbury, and a 7th, that of Brenda Wolfe. Another 4 charges were brought on September 20th, with 4 more charges being brought on October 3rd, bringing the total to now 15. A few years later, on May 26, 2005, there were 12 more charges laid against Robert, bringing the total of first-degree murder charges to 27. The police were excavating the farm and continued to do so for months. The property is fenced off under lien by the Crown of Right of British Columbia. Maybe it's because I don't live there, but Canadian and British legal systems are so confusing to me. All the buildings on the property, except for a small barn, have been demolished. Forensic analysis proved difficult because the bodies may have been left to decompose or be eaten by insects and the pigs. During the early days of the excavations, forensic anthropologists brought in heavy equipment, including two 50-foot flat conveyor belts and soil sifters to find human remains. On March 10, 2004, the Canadian government released probably the last thing you want to hear about this. They believed that Robert was grinding up human meat and mixing it in with the pork that he sold to the locals. In 2003, a preliminary hearing was held, and the clothes and rubber boots that Robert had been wearing were seized by the police. Lab testing showed that the DNA of 2 women were on them. His trial began on January 30th, 2006. He pleaded not guilty to the 27 charges of first-degree murder. The discovery phase of the trial took almost a year to determine what evidence would be admitted before the jury. Reporters were not allowed to disclose any of the material presented at the trial. On March 17th, one of the counts was rejected by Justice James Williams for lack of evidence. On August 9th, Justice Williams split the charges into one group of 6 counts and another group of 20. The trial for the group of 6 counts started. Because of the publication ban, full details of the decision were not made publicly available, but Justice Williams explained that trying all 26 charges at once would put an unreasonable burden on the jury, as the trial could have lasted up to 2 years, and it would have increased the possibility of a mistrial. This actually happens all the time in the United States. Let's say there's like a serial killer or a murderer who isn't considered a serial killer and they've killed more than one person. They're going to try all those murders separately. So let's say someone has allegedly killed 5 people. The evidence is really strong on the first 4, but the evidence isn't great on the 5th. If you try them all at the same time, the jury's going to look at the evidence for the 5th and say, we don't think he did that one. And because you're trying them all at the same time, we cannot say beyond a reasonable doubt that he did this one, acquitted. Right. If you try them all separately, that's 4 guilty verdicts, 1 acquittal, still goes to prison. My understanding is that these 6 had more evidence than the rest of the 20. So that's why they were broken up into the 6 and the 20. The 20 charges were actually stayed on August 4th, 2010, and he was never tried for them, I assume due to lack of evidence. The initial date for the trial was January 8th, 2007, but it got postponed a few days to January 22nd. On the 22nd, Robert faced 6 first-degree murder charges. The media ban was eventually lifted, and the details of what was found during the investigation were publicly released. During the trial, lab staff testified that about 80 unidentified DNA profiles, about half female and half male, have been detected on various pieces of evidence. A loaded .22 revolver with a dildo over the barrel and 1 round fired, boxes of .357 Magnum ammo, night vision goggles, 2 pairs of faux fur-lined handcuffs, a syringe with 3 millimeters of a blue liquid inside, which we will find out what that is later, and an aphrodisiac were found in his trailer. In a videotaped recording played for the jury, Robert claimed that he attached the dildo to his weapon as a makeshift silencer. Anyone who knows guns knows that 1, it's near impossible to silence a revolver just because of the way that the chamber is so open, and 2, a dildo's not gonna do that. Realistically speaking, it's not gonna do that. And if he didn't drill a hole in it first, it's a .22. It's gonna use like 3/4 of his energy just getting through the darn thing. A videotape of Robert's friend Scott Chubb was shown to the jury. In the video, Scott said that Robert had told him that a good way to kill female heroin addicts was to inject them with windshield washer fluid, which is what was in that syringe. A second tape was played in which a man named Andrew Bellwood said that Robert mentioned killing prostitutes by handcuffing and strangling them, then bleeding and gutting them before feeding them to the pigs. So even if he wasn't grinding up the meat itself to serve with the pigs, he was feeding it to the pigs, and the pigs were eating that, were eating the humans, and then the humans were eating the pigs. It's like a cyclical cycle. The humans eat the pigs eat the humans, which eat the pigs, which eat the humans, which eat the pigs. Photos of the contents of a garbage can were found in his slaughterhouse, which held some remains of one Mona Wilson. On December 9th, 2007, the jury found Robert not guilty on 6 counts of first-degree murder, but they did find him guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder. On December 11th, 2007, after reading 18 victim impact statements, British Columbia Supreme Court Justice Williams sentenced Robert to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. This is the maximum punishment for second-degree murder. While handing out the sentence, Justice Williams said, quote, Mr. Pikton's conduct was murderous and repeatedly so. I cannot know the details, but I know this. What happened to the victims was senseless and despicable. My understanding, again, on this was that there was not a lot of super hard evidence, which is why second-degree conviction instead of first, and also why the judge said that he can't know all the details. After the trial, witness Lynn Ellingson came forward to authorities claiming to have seen Robert skinning a woman hanging from a meat hook years earlier, but she didn't tell anyone because she was afraid of losing her own life. She also said that she had blackmailed Robert with this info on more than one occasion. While only being convicted of 6 murders and charged with 26, Robert confessed to a total of 49, telling police that he wanted to kill one more to make it an even 50, but that he got sloppy. Obviously, the grossest thing besides the whole thing is that he may have fed human meat to the general population. Knowingly doing that is just insane to me. That's like Hannibal Lecter type stuff. And that dude, they had to make up a guy. Like, they had to make up a dude who did that because they're like, oh, who's a guy that's so evil? They had to make up a guy that would serve other people human meat. And this guy did it. What are your thoughts on the second degree versus first degree conviction? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. I really, truly appreciate all of you. Again, remember to click that like button if you liked the video. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next one.